Hi guys, so Keir Starmer and Boris Johnson clashed in Westminster on Wednesday. Actually not in Westminster because Keir Starmer was self-isolating. But of course the topic of the day was Brexit, and Boris Johnson will later on Wednesday be going to visit Brussels and meet with the President of the European Commission, Ursula von der Leyen, and try to, we think, try to thrash out some sort of deal. So let's hear what they had to say. We'll start with Keir Starmer.
Mr. Speaker, a year ago, the Prime Minister stood on the steps of Downing Street and promised the country, these were his words, a permanent break from talking about Brexit. Can the Prime Minister tell us, how's that going?
So we've had, you know, and this is true. Boris Johnson was saying, look, we won't need to talk about Brexit anymore. Brexit is done. I got Brexit done. Of course, the argumentation was, you know, before the election, vote for us and you won't hear about Brexit anymore. People are tired about hearing about Brexit. And since getting Brexit done, apart from the pandemic, we've heard nothing else. Brexit, 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 Brexit. And, you know, this was Boris Johnson's promise. It's not a substantial question here, but it is a valid point.
I'm delighted to welcome the right honourable gentleman from his vantage point of exile in Islington, and wish him all...
Okay, you see what he's doing here. Now, if you're not familiar, Islington was Jeremy Corbyn, or I think he still holds that seat. Jeremy Corbyn is in Islington, not Keir Starmer. Once again, Boris Johnson can't be a gentleman. He has to take cheap shots because he has nothing else. But once again, he's going to deflect from actually answering the question.
All his spiritual home, and wish him all the best in his self-isolation. But I can tell him that his own silence on this matter has been sphinx-like. I think I wonder quite what it is, Mr. Speaker, that has kept him from asking this question for so long. We delivered Brexit, Mr. Speaker, on January the 31st, in case he failed to notice.
So what is he doing here? So Boris Johnson, of course, is poking at the fact that Jeremy Corbyn's successor, no longer Jeremy Corbyn there, Keir Starmer, has not been talking about Brexit. And the reason he hasn't been talking about Brexit is because the public haven't seen the effects of Brexit fully yet. Many people, of course, have lost their jobs because businesses have closed, businesses have moved overseas, and while the media have been discussing, you know, the pros and cons of Brexit, for most people on the ground, they have already experienced the negatives of Brexit. But from a political point of view, Keir Starmer hasn't anything really to throw at Boris Johnson. Brexit is a disaster, but there's no stopping it. It has already taken place. Going forward, he has to make sure that any deal that Boris Johnson does get is implemented. That's the only way he can hold Boris Johnson to account. He can't stop Brexit. Talking about Brexit doesn't help the Labour Party.
Going back to Keir Starmer. Keir Starmer.
Mr. Speaker, it's Camden, not Islington. Camden. And the Prime Minister starts straight away by deflecting. Same old, whether it's COVID or Brexit. 12 months ago, he told the British people that he had an oven-ready deal. He didn't say he had half a deal. He didn't say the next stage will be very, very difficult. In fact, he told the British people, this was before the election, he faced them and he told them, these were his words, that the chances of no deal were absolutely zero. And the now Chancellor obviously took him at his word, because the Chancellor said in the run-up to the election, we won't need to plan for no deal because we have a deal. So a year on, why should anyone who trusted the Prime Minister when he said he had a deal, including his Chancellor apparently, believe a word that he says now?
Now, I just want to reinforce that point. Boris Johnson ran an entire election campaign on, I have a deal. He didn't say it was the Withdrawal Agreement. He didn't say it's this is the withdrawal agreement and then we're going to start the hard work. No. He said, once you vote for me and you won't hear about Brexit anymore, vote for me and Brexit will be done. And then we can, and Boris Johnson himself said, we can start moving on. We can move on to the things that are unrelated to Brexit. And here we are in December, a few weeks before the end, trying to understand whether Boris Johnson is going to actually get a trade deal or not. A year ago, Boris Johnson was promising the people of the UK, you won't hear about Brexit anymore. Vote for me and Brexit is done. Done and dusted. As he remember the scenes of him putting stuff in a microwave, talking about an oven-ready deal. Once it's done, it's over. We can enjoy it. We can move on to the things that are important for the British people, the NHS, funding the NHS, education, jobs, all of this. They were his promises.
Prime Minister.
Well, Mr. Speaker, I hesitate to accuse the right honourable gentleman of deliberately trying to mislead people, but let's be in no doubt.
Complete projection here. Who was misleading people, Boris? Was Keir Starmer misleading people? No, you were the one misleading people. You were telling people, vote for me and you'll get X. And then after the election is, okay, I couldn't deliver X, but I'm delivering half of X. The other half will be a trade deal.
That we had an oven-ready deal, which was the withdrawal agreement.
This is probably the biggest lie of the whole day. And Boris Johnson is famous for telling lots of lies. It was not the withdrawal agreement. You never sold it as the withdrawal agreement. I knew it was the withdrawal agreement. It was the people who understood. I'm not saying that I understand everything about Brexit. There are a lot of holes in my knowledge of Brexit, but I knew that the withdrawal agreement was the one that Boris Johnson was selling. It wasn't a deal. At the time, I uploaded videos about it and I said, this is not a deal. This is an agreement. This is the withdrawal agreement. It's not some final deal. If you want to do trade with the European Union after, then you're going to have some sort of deal. The withdrawal agreement doesn't cover trade. The withdrawal agreement doesn't cover, for example, pet passports and health and security. It was only about the UK leaving. After that, it was about what sort of relationship did you want to have regarding trade or security or whatever after. Boris Johnson is lying here. Now, unfortunately, in Parliament, he's allowed to lie. The Speaker of the House can't say, oh, wait a minute, Boris, no, that's not true. You never told people that.
By which the people voted for, as he rightly points out, by which this country left the customs union, left the single market, and delivered on our promises. And I can tell him that whatever happens, and you must know this, Mr. Speaker, that whatever happens from January the 1st, this country will be able to get on with our points-based immigration system, which...
So some red meat to the racists.
We have put into law in fulfilment of our manifesto commitment. We'll be able to get on with instituting free ports, a low-tax free port.
Low taxes, free ports, so more red meat to the libertarians in the Conservative Party.
In places where jobs and growth are most needed around the country. We'll be able to honour our promise to the British people and institute higher animal welfare standards.
This is not something that required you to leave the European Union.
And we'll be able to do free trade deals, and we'll get our money back.
Free trade deals, like Japan, which is worse than the current conditions, and worse than the conditions that you would have had with Japan if you had stayed a member of the European Union. And then about money, what is he talking about money? Taking back control of our money? What's that about?
As well, Mr. Speaker, I don't know what else he wants to see from January the 1st, but all those things will be delivered.
Returning to Camden with Keir Starmer.
Boris Johnson is just bluster. There's no substance here.
I see, Mr. Speaker. Apparently, get Brexit done just meant the first part of it, the easy bit. I don't remember that being written on the bulldozer at the time. Mr. Speaker, last September, the Prime Minister actually hit the nail on the head when he said, that leaving without a deal would be, in his words, a failure of statecraft. It would. It would be a total failure.
And he's exactly right here. Boris Johnson said it would be a failure of statecraft not to get a deal. It would be a failure not to get a deal. Now he's talking about, well, we're going to leave without a deal. But as I've said in other videos, and I talked about this also on the live stream, Boris Johnson is not going to sell no deal to the British people. He's going to sell something else, an Australian style deal, which is basically no deal. And I think now, I'm recording this on Wednesday afternoon, I think we're heading down the direction of a no deal Brexit, but Boris Johnson will sell it as an Australian style deal, which is a no deal Brexit. It's about confusing people. He confused people last December into voting for him for a deal when he didn't have a deal. It was the Withdrawal Agreement. And now he's going to trick people and confuse them into supporting him getting a deal when he's actually not getting a deal. So the Withdrawal Agreement was not a deal. And the deal that he's going to sell to the British people is a no deal.
And it will be the British people who pay the price. Does the Prime Minister agree with his own spending watchdog, the OBR, that the cost of that failure, of leaving the EU with no deal, would be higher unemployment, higher inflation, and a smaller economy?
This is a very good point of... this very good tactic that Keir Starmer is using. He's talking about issues that affect real people, employment, inflation, a smaller economy. This is not bluster. This is not rhetoric. This is the reality on the ground. And this has already taken place.
Mr. Speaker, the more he talks about Brexit, the more I can see why he tried to avoid the subject for the last for the last year. We did leave with a very good deal. And
once again, he's calling it a deal. It was not a deal. It was the Withdrawal Agreement. He's going back into the old 2019 rhetoric again. We have a deal. It's not a deal, Boris. You've just explained it a few minutes ago how it wasn't a deal. You said it was the Withdrawal Agreement.
Under any circumstances, this country will prosper mightily. And I may say to the right honourable gentleman, when he talks about the possible adverse consequences for this country of a deal on Australian terms, which I think is what...
See, here we go. Australian terms. There are no Australian terms, Boris. Please explain the Australian terms that the European Union has. Please explain the deal that the Australia and the European Union have that you want to emulate.
What he's talking about. We have yet to hear from the Labour Party what their view is of that matter. Would they?
They've already told you that they don't want you to leave without a deal. They've already said a no-deal Brexit would be a disaster. Your own government has said that a no-deal Brexit would be a disaster. Do you understand what Boris Johnson is trying to do now? He's trying to confuse the public. He's saying, look, Keir Starmer hasn't given his opinion on an Australian-style deal. Yes, he has. Well, first of all, it doesn't exist because it's a no-deal Brexit. It doesn't exist. But what it really is a no-deal Brexit. And he has said on numerous occasions, a no-deal Brexit would be a disaster for the UK. Even Boris Johnson has said a no-deal Brexit would be a failure of statehood, a statecraft.
They vote for it, yes or no? I mean, he remained totally Delphic last week, Mr. Speaker, about his policy on fighting coronavirus. He's totally Delphic about what to do on Brexit as well.
Oh my God.
Keir Starmer.
Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister talks about indecision. He is absolutely stuck. This is the truth of it. He's absolutely stuck and dithering between the deal he knows that we need and the compromise he knows his backbenchers won't let him do. Mr. Speaker, I genuinely hope this is the usual Prime Minister's bluster and that, like one of his newspaper columns, a deal arrives at the last minute. But for some people and their jobs, it's already too late. Yesterday, Ineos, a major employer in this country,
which I actually uploaded a video about recently, which is this company has decided to move to France, and the owner of the company was a Brexiteer, or is a Brexiteer. I don't know if he's changed his mind. An adamant Brexiteer, saying that it's a good idea for the UK to leave the European Union. Now he has moved his production to France.
Announced that they will not now build a new Grenadier car in Bridgend and will move production to France instead. This is a project that just 2 months ago, the Prime Minister said was a vote of confidence. So hundreds of skilled jobs now won't go to Bridgend. Can the Prime Minister tell us how many more British jobs have to go overseas before he gets on with delivering the Brexit deal that he promised?
Unfortunately, Boris Johnson will not answer this question. Boris Johnson, real people are suffering. People have lost their jobs. And this is even before the end of the transition period. This is before the real Brexit bites. Boris Johnson doesn't care about these people. He has used them as a tool in the past. I talked about this before, how Boris Johnson will go to manufacturing plants, take photos with people, and then a few months later that exact business will close down because of Brexit.
Mr. Speaker, I think it's a bit much of the Leader of the Opposition to criticise the government for failure to come up with a policy on Brexit, when he can't even, and a bit much for him to attack the putative consequences of coming out on Australian terms, when he can't even say whether he would vote for that deal, yes or no.
Okay, I can't, honestly, guys, I can't take any more of this. People are losing their jobs, and Boris Johnson's response is, how dare the Leader of the Opposition not support my No Deal Brexit in a new name? What an absolute charade. I was going to say facade. Boris Johnson's facade has fallen. It's an absolute charade, this. People are losing their jobs. People have lost their jobs. People are going to lose their jobs in the future. And Boris Johnson is more concerned about whether the Leader of the Opposition, who is in no power, has no power in Parliament, is going to support his new invented deal, which is a No Deal Brexit. This is disgraceful. Boris Johnson should not be Prime Minister. He's doing more damage than anyone else I could imagine in that position. It's all a joke to him. Now he's probably going to go to Brussels and agree nothing and return and say, look, I have an Australian style deal. I think this is, I've talked about this before, and I think this is his final throw of the dice. He confused and tricked people and conned them last December into voting for him because he'd get Brexit done. He'd have his oven-ready deal, which was the Withdrawal Agreement. And now he's admitting the truth. And he's going to try it again. He's going to trick people into thinking an Australian-style deal is a deal when in reality it's a no-deal Brexit. It's all about protecting Boris Johnson. It's not about protecting Britain. He thinks if I can come back with nothing, because coming back with something would require a compromise, as Boris Johnson is too lazy and cowardly to actually take responsibility for something. So he's going to distract it once again. And I'm afraid it may actually work once again. I couldn't go any further with this, guys, because I really can't take any more of Boris Johnson's bullshit. But let me know in the comment section, guys, what you think. As always, your comments are greatly appreciated. Thanks a lot. I want to say a big thank you to all of my patrons. You ensure that this channel continues to exist. I'm eternally grateful for all of your support. If you join Patreon, you will receive instant access to our Discord server, where we have both audio and video chats. You can chat with me and other patrons, where we discuss important and non-important issues. Becoming a patron per month costs about the same as a large coffee, so why not check it out?